Hello, people. How's it going? Oh, excuse me. Got a flat tire this morning, so I couldn't go to work. It was like having a flat tire at 2, 3 in the morning, and having to push the bike back. So naturally, why not do something on Peter Cushing? I grew up on Hammer films. I did. I grew up on Hammer films. I grew up on with Peter Cushing, and of course Christopher Lee, and all those other films of the Hammer franchises. I've always liked. This is a very good book, by the way. I want to talk about it, but I haven't read all of it yet. But I like this book. I like how he talks about his family and his rise to how he just kept on trying. He just kept on trying to be an actor. He wanted to be an actor. That's what he wanted to be. That's what he wanted to do. And it talks about so far. It talks about his his ups and downs, his relationship with his family, his trials and tribulations, basically. I know it's going to talk about his friendship with Christopher Lee. It's going to talk about, unfortunately, his death of his wife, which really devastated him. I mean, he does talk about that. I've skimmed a lot of this book, but I'm kind of reading it, doing both, actually. I mean, it talks about his early films. It talks about his early career. It talks about finally his big break in the Frankenstein. I don't like keep getting things. This book has all his filmography in here. I mean, it talks about his theater career. As I find the films would be nice. I mean, I want to get it right. I mean, The Revenge of Frankenstein, dummy. Anyway, but it talks about that. It talks about it's written very British. I think that's what the problem is. It's written so British. It's written so English. It's like, he's not really wanting to talk about himself too much because he really was a very nice man. He was a nice guy. Most things I've ever heard about Peter Cushing, like Christopher Lee, was he was a nice guy. He really was. It's funny that a lot of the nice guys do horror films. Talks, it's about his career. I'm about halfway done, so I'm kind of guessing what he's going to talk about next. But I'm pretty sure with everything else I've read about him and heard about him on other YouTube channels, he kept on working. I mean, he kept on working. I mean, he was Van Helsing. He was in the Dracula films. He did the Mummy films. He did Doctor Who twice. He did 2 movies, Doctor Who. He played Doctor Who, but he wasn't a Time Lord in his movies. He was just a human who made a time machine and went from there. They're not good films, but they're not. Okay, they're not. I can't say worth watching sometimes because they're not. Not all his films were masterpieces of anything. But other the Daleks, it's Doctor Who cares? It's Peter Cushing, who cares? It's like when he did his movie with Doug McClure, At the Earth's Core. In the 70s, it's like, who cares? It's Doug McClure and Peter Cushing and Caroline Munro. What more could you want? Come on. Anyway, I mean, he was in the first Star Wars film. He was Tarkin. I mean, he played a good menacing governor. I like Peter Cushing. I always have. I always will. I'm hoping to find a lot more information about him. I find his early career interesting because he did a lot of B-picture movies. I mean, let's see if I can. There's some pictures. There's a picture. Ah. Sorry, I'm still trying to master the art of showing pictures off. I mean, he was. Let's see, here's some other early films. I don't need to read it, but hopefully I can. I mean, his first film, you recognize him in. If you watch Moulin Rouge with Jose Ferrer, he's in there briefly. Let's see. I just looked for some of the films I like. His films I liked. Let's see. I mean, he did stage. I mean, 1936, he started on the stage finally. His first film was in 1939, Man in the Iron Mask. I mean, he was in Alexander the Great, 1955. So I have seen, by the way. I don't remember him being in that film. I remember Richard Burton being in that film, but not him. He did The Abominable Snowman. The Abominable Snowman is a very good film, by the way. It is an excellent Peter Cushing film. It's far better than the Snow Beast or Snow Creature, whatever the other movie is. That other movie is terrible. It's boring. But the Snow Creature, The Abominable Snowman, is a very good film. It's a very good atmospheric film with Peter Cushing in it. It's done very well with a very good ending. I mean, it's an ending you don't expect. It is a very good film. I've got to get a better Cushing. I mean, The Revenge of Frankenstein, very good. Hound of the Baskervilles, he was Sherlock Holmes. I mean, Peter Cushing played a whole lot of different characters other than Victor von Frankenstein. Or Frankenstein, as Gene Wilder would say. I mean, I grew up on Revenge of Frankenstein, The Mummy, the Hammer film, horror films. The Gorgon. The Gorgon isn't too bad a film. It's not great. It's not overly good, but it's not bad. The Mummy was a good film. Let's see. Ones I can remember real off the bat that I remember seeing. The Evil of Frankenstein, 1963, the year I was born. That's not a bad film. I mean, not all the Frankenstein films were good, but Peter Cushing made them good. His acting was always good. He was always a professional when he did his films. I mean, even the dumb movies that he's been in, you watch them and he is acting very well. He's basically playing the part well. He's not hamming it up. He's not dialing it in. He's acting. He's trying to make his role a good role. Let's see. The Gorgon, which I just said, not a great film, not a bad film, but it's Peter Cushing once again, and Christopher Lee. He's in that film too. Does a very good. Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee together always work well together, even on the bad movies that they do. Even together, their presence is always his presence is always there. His professionalism is always there. I like him. I like him in his roles, I guess, more than I'm getting into his personal life. Well, this book is basically that, his professional life. But I've never heard one single bad thing about Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, for that matter. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. That's not a bad trilogy of movies. Doctor Who Daleks, 65. I'm sorry, Peter, but that was not a good film. Let's see. Frankenstein Created Woman. Not bad. See, I'm very picky when it comes to my Frankenstein movies. But Peter Cushing is really is more what the film is about than the actual monster. If you ever watch these films, he really is the main focus of the film, not the monster, not his attempt to create life from death. Let's see. Dalek Invasion of Earth. I've actually not seen that. However, I've heard that it's just as bad as the other one. He makes a good Doctor Who if he's just a human traveling through time and space. But I get the impression that he really was just not really quite understanding the Doctor Who concept. You remember, this was the first year or so of the actual TV show Doctor Who, and it just started in 63. Me and Doctor Who are the same age. 63. 1963 we were born. Let's see. Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. It's not a bad movie. Twins of Evil, 1971. Now, I grant you, there are 2 reasons or 3 reasons to watch that film. And yes, it has nothing to do with Peter Cushing. I'm trying to find a real fast picture of the twins. I don't think there is one in here. I mean, yes, they are beautiful, and they are twins, and they are identical. And Peter Cushing, once again, plays the role so well in these movies as the slightly tyrannical Puritan bent on hunting down all witches and vampires and killing them, whether they're his nieces or not, who the twins are. One is turning evil and the other one isn't, and it's slowly, well, spoilers, but it's a good movie. Actually, despite the obvious appeal to the film, it's actually one of the few good Hammer films in the 70s. Hammer was slowly losing its ability to really make good films anymore. I mean, the latter half of the 50s and the 60s was the golden age of Hammer films. They could make good horror films. They made Dracula, an excellent film. They made Revenge of Frankenstein. They can make those films, and Universal's, you can make them, but they better not look anything like ours. That's why the movies are more about Dr. Frankenstein than the monster. Let's see. Trying to remember movies I can remember I can tell you about. Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, I vaguely remember seeing that film. And unfortunately, I can't say I liked it. But, what are you going to do? The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. It's goofy, but Peter Cushing pulls it off because he's being Peter Cushing. It's almost like he's playing himself, but very well. It's a goofy movie. It's weird. It's goofy. It makes no sense, but it's Peter Cushing, and who cares? It's Peter Cushing. Let's see. At the Earth's Core, 1976, with Doug McClure, of course, based off the Edgar Rice Burroughs novel. It has Caroline Munro in it. It has Peter Cushing in it. It has Doug McClure. Who cares about everything else? It is a cartoonish film. It is a cartoonish, goofy, but it's fun to watch. It's one of those matinee films that it's not going to offend anybody. Well, it might offend people today, but it won't offend anybody. It's not bad. I mean, it is Doug McClure after all, but it's not too bad a film. It's not great, but it's not too bad. Of course, there's Star Wars in 76 as well, where he plays the evil Governor Tarkin torturing Princess Leia. And Star Wars was good, by the way. Star Wars now is dead. It's just not the same. It's dead. But Cushing, of course, plays the role as a sinister human, or I shouldn't say human. I'm not sure what species Tarkin. I know there's a novel out there about Tarkin. I should read it. I've never read it. I should read it. Of course, that's a good role. He's good in it. He's good even in the bit parts he plays, just like Christopher Lee was. Let's see. I'm just doing the movies I remember I have seen. I mean, it does have a good picture. I do like that picture of him. I do like that picture of Peter Cushing. I think that's an excellent picture of him. I mean, it does talk about his early life, his movie life, his marriage. He was happily married. He was happily married to a woman who died, I believe, in 72. The reason he did Terror Train was because Christopher Lee forced him to. He said, "Look, you need to keep working. You're way too depressed, and I know why. It's understandable, but the best cure is to keep busy and to keep working, because that's what your wife wants you to do. That's what you should be doing." And he did that. He did Terror Train, which actually is not a bad film. It's not a horror. I don't remember if it's a Hammer film or not. I don't think so. It's not here, but it should be. Why did I miss Terror Train? Okay, why am I not finding Terror Train? Come on. I know he did it. I watched it. Where's Terror Train? Oh, that's weird. Okay. That's very strange. Because Terror Train, it should be on here. I know he did it because he's in it. Him and Christopher Lee. It's not not a bad movie. I mean, it's got Telly Savalas in it. It's an odd movie. It's a very strange movie about some strange, well, Christopher Lee's character is an archaeologist apparently, and he finds this, I think, 2 million-year-old frozen something, and it comes to life, and it's actually an alien, and it takes over. And it's a weird movie. It's a good movie, and it's going to drive me crazy unless I find it. Why am I not finding this film here? Okay, why isn't Terror Train on here? Anyway, let's be again. I mean, let's see, I'm fairly certain. Another very good picture of his elderly age. He was a nice guy. That's all I've ever heard about Peter Cushing is how nice a guy is. And he's very British in this book. That's probably why I'm having a hard time explaining it, because it's so different. He does talk highly of himself. He's very deprecating humor, very British humor. He's you have to read it. How do you explain British humor? It's very deprecating. It's very upper lip. It's very stoic. It's a good autobiography. Worth reading, worth finding. Let's see. I'm trying to find that. It's going to bother me because I know, by the way, that's the scene from The Seven Golden Vampires. That one right there. Let's see. There he is, Governor Tarkin up there. Star Wars. He was a versatile actor. I mean, he's known for his horror films, but at the same time, he did a whole lot of other things. I mean, he was a very good actor. Let's see. The Vampires. I really want to find a picture of this movie I know exists, because I know he's in it. It's going to drive me crazy. Some other pictures of it. It's a very good autobiography. He does talk. How do you explain a biography where the person writing it is almost like he's not sure he really wants to talk about himself too much? He wants to talk about his career more than his personal life, more than this, that, and the other, or family. But I like this book. I'm not explaining it very well, but I do like this book. I like how he writes. I like how he's deprecating in his humor about himself, about his career. I've never heard anything. Well, I've never heard one single person ever say anything bad about Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, actually. But their friendship he talks about. I mean, I've skimmed here and there for this video. I figure I'm going to talk about Peter Cushing. I might as well use my UK cup. Let's see. Yeah, I'm very. Why we're not having. Why it's not mentioned? Let's see. Well, it's going to bother me because it's going to bother me. Or am I thinking of a different movie? Is it Horror Express or Terror Express? It's Horror Express, isn't it? I didn't mention this here either. That's weird. Am I thinking of the wrong film? Somebody can tell me. But I know him and him and Christopher Lee did a movie called Horror Express. And why it's not in this book, it's a mystery to me. Because I remember the film. It's a good film. It's not, Revenge of Frankenstein. It's not The Mummy. But for what it was, it's not a bad film. I mean, it is an interesting book. I mean, it talks about myself when young. I'll give you the name of the chapters. That might help you understand what he's going to write about. An autobiography. Preface. Myself when young. Bright eyes. How now, brown cow. California, here I come. England's green and pleasant land. 40 and a failure. There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Good night, my beloved Peter. The second one wrote, Past Forgetting, Overture and Beginner's Please, a forward by Peter Gray. Curtain up, prologue, Act 1, Scene 1, Act 1, Scene 2, so on and so forth. I don't think he took seriously the second autobiography he was writing. But, that's right. That kind of bothers me. And I know, which is why it's impossible why it's not. Oh, I bet you I know why. Bet you it wasn't a movie. It was a TV movie. Sorry. I like to get my facts correct. Well, it's not here either, which is odd. Okay, I know it's a movie. Anyway, watch it. It's a good movie. Peter Cushing is a good actor. He always was. He always will be. Great characters. Great autobiography. An interesting man. Sorry I'm not making this as interesting as it actually is, because it is. But I grew up on Hammer films, and I turned out just fine. As far as you need to know, I turned out just fine, just like he did. I need to find a Christopher Lee autobiography now, because between the two of them, I'm not really sure who scares me more. Probably Christopher Lee. But anyway, I'm almost at 25. I don't want to go much longer. But anyway, if anybody's interested in reading, or someone who'd like to read about Peter Cushing, this is the book to get and tell them about. Tell them about the video, share the video, comment, please subscribe, comment, and like. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. But I know Horror Express is a film he made with Christopher Lee. I know he did. And Fellas. Look it up. Later.